there it is.
Trouble getting it into, okay, yeah, I'm good.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and jump right into our content. And we're going to go about an hour is when the parent goes to pull Social Security retirement. There's a little box that says, do you have an adult child with a disability? You have to click the little box. Then you have to prove with medical records. There's a certain amount of paperwork that has to be done. Even if that adult child is already getting SSI, you have to prove it new and fresh to get SSDI. And so one of the big benefits of SSDI is more money per month. And then after 24 months of being on SSDI, that adult child with a disability will be eligible for Medicare, even if they're under the age of 65. So this is a really important benefit. If you don't remember anything else, just remember when you or your spouse goes to get Social Security retirement, you must click that little box to start the process. All right, next slide. Peek and chat. So if you have not yet applied for SSI, when your child turns 18, in the eyes of the law, they become an independent adult and responsible financially for him or herself or themselves. It's often a good time to apply for SSI. If your adult child at the age of 18 is not really able to work and make a living, it's a good time to apply. You used to only be able to do this on the phone, which was ridiculous because you could be on hold for hours. So now there's this new online tool, and you can start the process with basic information. You still will need to talk to somebody. You still cannot finish the application online, but at least you can get it started online. So that's a really big and helpful change. Next slide. So when you're applying for SSI, they're going to only look at the individual with the disability after the age of 18. They're not going to look at the parent's income or what the parent owns. So what are you allowed to have and still be eligible for SSI? You can have one house that you must live in. It cannot just be a rental property. You can rent out rooms in the house, but the person with a disability must live in that house or apartment building. You can have one car. You can have a small life insurance policy. You can have burial plots, a burial fund. You can have any kind of household goods and personal effects. But here's the kicker. You're not allowed to have more than $2,000 in cash anywhere, in a checking account, in a savings account, in stocks, in bonds. The only place you're allowed to have more than $2,000 is, if you're on SSI, is either a special needs trust or a CalABLE account. All right, next slide. Alexandra, should I pause? Is there? Let me peek.
Sure. There are a couple of questions. Is there a PDF to download? We don't have that immediately available, but we'll be sending out these slides tomorrow, so we all get a copy. And then the second question is, please discuss how adult children with psychotic disorder qualify for these benefits.
Right. So that's a great question, Karen. Basically, you're going to have to prove that the adult child cannot earn a living, what the government calls SGA, sustainable, I forget exactly the acronym, but basically you have to be able to show why that adult cannot make a living. And so you're going to need pretty extensive doctor's notes, probably from a psychiatrist, to prove that case for someone with mental illness. For regional center clients, it's a lot easier. And again, if there was like a traumatic brain injury or a near drowning, something like that, before the age of 22, that's going to be a lot easier to prove as well. Lexington, there, you have your hand raised?
Yes. I have I opened an Able Now account. It is not CalABLE. I called to see what the difference is. CalABLE is for California.
Right.
I asked if I need to do that one instead of the Able Now. She said no. Able Now can be from different states.
That's correct. Yeah. No, Lexington, you
Okay.
got it right. You got it right.
Okay.
So the ABLE
Thank you.
accounts were federal. They were created, actually, President Obama, remember him, signed it into law.
Yeah, I remember.
President Obama signed it into law. Some states, Ohio was one of the first ones, created something called Stable. California was a little late to the game. They all operate somewhat similarly, but you can have up to $100,000 in your ABLE account in any state, and you can still have SSI. So it's good news. You're in good shape, Lexington. All right. I'm going to turn back to the slide. So SSI has this really stupid and outdated rule called In-Kind Services and Maintenance, ISM. So what the federal government says is if anybody else is helping the SSI beneficiary with these categories, food, mortgage, property taxes, rent, heating, fuel, gas, electricity, water, sewer, and garbage removal, the federal government is going to reduce how much money you can get in SSI. So you'll see on the next slide, right now, the maximum you can get under SSI per month is $1,133. So if your trust or anybody else is paying for any of these categories of expenses, the federal government will impose a penalty of 1/3 of the federal share plus $20. So they will deduct $324 from that $1,133. Lexington, just 1 minute, okay? So I just want to say there's a workaround, which is using your ABLE account. If you use your ABLE account to pay for any of these things, you don't get that 1/3 penalty. Okay, Lexington, you can ask your question now.
I don't get SSI. My father passed away. My amount changed. So
yes.
I get 1,709, almost 1,800.
Right.
What I did is want to make automatic deposit to ABLE account every month. Will I still be penalized because I don't want to lose Medi-Cal?
No, you will not be penalized. Okay. So there's different rules for SSI than SSDI. So what Lexington is referring to was that first slide I showed you about the adult disabled child. So you're good. But unfortunately, most adults over 18 with disabilities end up on SSI for at least 5 years, more likely 10 or 20 years, depending on what happens with the parents. All right, next slide, please. Okay, what is Medi-Cal? So remember we were just talking and said Medi-Cal is California's Medicaid program. So it pays for all kinds of medical stuff, durable equipment like wheelchairs or insulin pumps, prescription meds as long as it's on the state formulary. It also pays for end of life. So you have to be low income and low assets. Right now in California, though, you can have all the way up to $130,000 in assets and still qualify for Medi-Cal. But you have to have you have to be earning less than $1,400 a month. You can have both Medi-Cal and Medicare. When that happens, Medicare pays first, Medi-Cal is secondary. You can also have private health insurance from an employer, and then Medi-Cal is going to be secondary. Medi-Cal is always secondary because Medi-Cal's reimbursement rates are the lowest of any of the programs out there, unfortunately. All right, next slide. So one of the really great benefits of Medi-Cal is a California program called In-Home Supportive Services. Other states have similar programs, usually not as good. So Medi-Cal will pay for someone to come to your house and to take care of you, what's called the activities of daily living. So that's things like getting out of bed, getting dressed, going to the toilet, brushing your hair, brushing your teeth, washing your face, making breakfast, cleaning up from breakfast. And someone from the Department of Social Services comes to the house, meets the beneficiary, talks to them, talks to the parents, or talks to the other caregivers, and each person is given so many hours per month, which translates into so many hours a day. Even with protective supervision, which means they would be at harm to themselves or others if left alone, the maximum is $283 a month. So the problem is that only comes out to 8 or 9 hours a day. So if someone needs 24/7 care, you're not going to get it paid out of IHSS. If they're regional center, you might be able to get additional hours through either SLS, Supported Living Service, or ILS, Independent Living Services. Lots of acronyms. Or you might want to use like a special needs trust to pay for other additional shifts. A great thing about IHSS is family members can be paid care providers. So right now, I think the hourly wage, it's keeping up with whatever the living wage is by law in California. So right now in LA County, that's like $16 an hour. And that's going to be going up. The Board of Supervisors just increased it a little bit. I'll pause. Let me see what the questions are. Hi, Lisa. To trigger SSDI, does parent with employment history need to begin drawing Social Security? Yes. It's not enough to just attain the age. You must actually apply to be receiving the monthly Social Security retirement benefit. So if the parent waits till age 70, will the amount the disabled child receives be commensurate with the increase? Yes. But for some families, it's not worth waiting. I mean, that's something you have to run out the numbers. Some families really need that extra money now, and they don't want to wait till 70. So that's something each family has to decide. If you have a financial planner, it's a good issue to discuss with them. Like I said, it varies from family to family. You know, in a perfect world, it pays to wait because then you'll get a higher amount. But not every family is able to wait due to their own financial situation. Welcome to people who just joined us. You're welcome to put questions in chat, and you will get a copy of this presentation tomorrow. We'll take the next slide. So the other good thing in California, SSI and IHSS recipients are entitled and eligible for CalFresh. That's what we call food stamps in California. So you don't get a whole lot, like $100, $130 person per month. And again, you're only allowed to have that $2,000 in a checking account, savings account, bonds, or stocks. But if you have a ABLE account or a special needs trust, you can qualify for the food stamps. All right. I'm hearing some background sound from somebody. If you could please mute. Next slide, please. All right. So until last July, if you wanted to qualify for Medi-Cal, you could only have $2,000 in assets. So the big exciting news, that changed July 1st, 2022. And it's now based on what they call the spousal impoverishment amount. The idea was there if you have an older couple and like the husband goes into a nursing home that's being paid by Medi-Cal, how much money is left for the wife to live on, and it was $130,000. So that's how they came up with that amount. So this means a lot of people who previously were not eligible for Medi-Cal are now eligible. So this might be something that you or your family can now apply for. And you can do that online and through your local county Department of Social Services. Also, there's a website called CalBenefits that you can apply on. All righty, welcome to our latecomers. Next slide, please. Okay, now I've talked about all these benefits. How do we keep all these benefits with all these different rules? So there's really just two legal ways: special needs trust or an ABLE account. I'm going to talk about the special needs trust first. So special needs trusts are designed to keep to allow the person with a disability to keep private funds and also keep all their government benefits. But of course, there's a couple of catches. The money in the trust has to be used primarily for the benefit of the beneficiary. So once the money is in the trust, you can't use it for an aunt or an uncle or even a grandma. Like, God forbid, somebody needs cancer treatments. You can't pull out money from the special needs trust and then use it for, grandma's cancer treatment. It has to be used for that person with a disability. But the good news is the special needs trust lets the beneficiary stay in all those government programs and be able to use money in the trust plus any investment income. I saw there was a question. Can my disabled adult son get SSI even if he is not an American citizen but has a green card? Yeah, they might have to get it under a different program. It's called CASI, I think it is. It's a parallel program to SSI, or CAPI. That's it. It's called CAPI. You should definitely call the local county to look into that. But yeah, I think they should be able to qualify under that program. All right, next slide. So when we get into special needs trust, there's two different kinds. I'm going to talk about the kind you want to do. It's called the planning ahead kind, the third party, which is assets from someone other than the beneficiary, such as parents, grandparents, or other relatives. Now, what's good about this third party is when the beneficiary passes away, the state Medicaid program is not allowed to ask for any money back. If you don't plan ahead, and the person with a disability inherits the money outright, then after the beneficiary passes away, the Medicaid department can come calling and present us with a big bill. Now, actually, Mark is a great example. Mark here ended up with both a first and a third party because your sister inherited some money and she created a third party trust. But your mom, I don't think, there was some money that she did not put into a
Right,
trust.
it was in a savings account.
It was in a savings account. So what we did for Mark, here, keep it nice, please. What we did for Mark is we used up the money in the first party right away. And now we're working on the third party funds.
Right.
So, it's not the end of the world if you don't plan ahead, but it's just so much better and easier for everybody. If parents and grandparents can plan ahead, and they must create the special needs trust in their estate document, whether it's a will or a living trust, you must create that special needs trust before you pass away. In other words, after the parent passes away, the surviving spouse cannot set it up. You need to set it up ahead of time. Super important. Let me see, is LS. I started at age 18 with SSI. Later I was put on SSDI, Social Security, because the dad was receiving Social Security. Right, and you have both Medicare and Medi-Cal. Yeah. So that's a good thing. It's a good thing to have both. All right. All righty. Welcome everyone. We're going to keep going. If you have questions, please type them in chat. Next slide, please. Okay. So wealthy people for many decades have always used a professional trustee when it comes to a special needs trust. It's the best practice to use a licensed, it's called a fiduciary, a licensed professional fiduciary, which I am, and my colleague Ron Parks is as well. You can also, lawyers can also be trustees, banks. Wells Fargo has a large trust department. Bank of America has a trust department through Merrill Lynch. Some other large banks also have trust departments. So you will get good service, but again, there's a catch. You need at least $500,000 or $1 million in liquid assets right now, or those banks and lawyers and trust companies do not want to talk to you. So the very wealthy, they have a good system, but most of us don't have at least $500,000 or $1 million hanging around. So that's why a pool trust can be a good solution. So traditionally, what a lot of middle-class families have done is they name the sibling to be the family trustee in their estate document or their living trust. So the problem with that is it can be a big burden for the sibling to have to learn all these government benefits rules and understand the tax implications, and just, they may or may not want to be dealing with their sibling. So the best practice is to use a professional licensed fiduciary as a trustee for a special needs trust. Yes, Lexington.
2 questions. I'll make them short. One is, does a burial plot count as an asset that am I allowed to buy a burial plot and prepare for my end of life with my synagogue? And
Yes.
also can Bet Zedek be a helpful people to help with the trust making fun things?
Those are great questions. So the answer for the burial plot, the answer is yes, you can use your trust funds to purchase a burial plot, but it has to be irrevocable, meaning you can't sell it. A lot of burial plots, believe it or not, people sell them. People buy them and then they don't end up using them for different reasons, and they sell them. So anything.
It's important to me because I'm Jewish, to be buried properly.
I understand. But yeah, many of our clients have purchased burial plots using their trust fund. So we know how to do that. And then,
thank you.
And then on the second question, Bet Tzedek is a wonderful nonprofit. It means House of Justice in Hebrew. And they do a lot of really great things, but they're not able to help you with the trust. In fact, they helped create us. So they're not able to help you create a trust or to be the trustee. That is beyond their scope of services. All right, next slide. Okay, so this gets a little technical if there's any lawyers in the group, but there's two different kinds of first-party trust. So there's one that is we call standalone, and then there's one that is a pooled. So the D4A, that's the technical term, that's a standalone. So you can go to a trust attorney, you can set up your own standalone trust, but then you'll have to figure out who will be the role of trustee when both parents are gone. This trust can only be established by someone under the age of 65. So the other option is the pool trust. That's what our nonprofit does. The technical name is a D4C, and it can be established by an adult with a disability of any age. Okay, next slide. So what exactly is a pool trust? So Congress created them 30 years ago, and Congress said, you know, we understand that not everyone's a millionaire and is going to be able to have their own trustee. So we're going to create these things called pool trusts, but because we're dealing with such a vulnerable population, we want them operated by nonprofits. They have to be a legitimate, it's called 501c3. We don't want banks running it. We don't want for-profit groups. We want nonprofits operating them. And so the nonprofit creates a master trust that's like an umbrella that becomes the governing trust document. And then to enroll under that umbrella master trust, you just sign a simple legal agreement called a joinder agreement. Everybody has their own sub-account, but the money is pooled for investment purposes and cash management. So it's similar, for those of you familiar, it's similar to a mutual fund in that way. And so it's the cheapest way to set up a trust. For an active account, we charge $1,300. For an inactive account, it's $600. If you go to a private trust and a state attorney, they're going to charge you a couple of $1,000s to set up a special needs trust. So ours is the least expensive way to set up a special needs trust, and also the least expensive way to have professional trust administration. All right, next slide. Please repeat the prices you charge. I think we have it on another slide. It's $1,300 for an active trust that has over $20,000 in it. $600 for an inactive, which is most parents in your age groups. Most parents are going to set up the inactive account that we call a future funded account. There was another question. Can I speak about a child with disabilities that doesn't qualify for Medi-Cal? So even for people who aren't going to qualify for Medi-Cal, you still might want a professional administering money that the parents leave behind. Some of our children, adult children with, let's say, learning disabilities or some loss of executive functioning, they may really benefit by having a professional trustee administer their funds. So that would be another reason to use a special needs trust. Why a pool trust can be a good option? Like I said, it's cheaper to set up. There's potentially higher rates of return because we're going to take David's 400,000 and combine it. I'll just make up a number for you. Mark's 200,000 and Cindy's 300,000, and we're going to invest that money together as a chunk It's not, we use a professional investment company with Charles Schwab. And so we're able to leverage higher rates of return because we're pooling the money, as I said, just for investment purposes and for cash management purposes. Everybody has their own sub account, and everybody gets so many units of their investment portfolio, and then those units go up or down each market day, and they change based on the stocks and the bonds that are in that portfolio. Okay, next slide. So we offer first-party trust, that's pooled, third-party trust, and that's the active option. And then the inactive is the future funded option, which is probably what most of you would be interested in. It's a $600 enrollment fee plus a $200 deposit into a pooled money market at Charles Schwab. And so we don't disperse any money until there's at least $20,000. But the great thing is once you set it up, it's like this empty glass. It's there, and then later on you can pour in IRA money or pension money or the sale of a family home. All of those funds can be poured in and become liquid assets, and then those funds can be distributed. All right, next slide. So we work with a company called TrueLink. They're based in San Francisco, and they are specialists in helping vulnerable populations manage their money, particularly using this restricted use Visa card. And the clients really like this card because it's just like any other Visa debit card, and it can be used pretty much at any merchant. And we can open and close categories depending on each client's individual needs. So if a client wants to take a trip, they tell us ahead of time. Like if Mark wants to, you were talking about buying tickets to go see your sister,
Right.
who lives out of state. So we would put money on the card, you know, so he could purchase his airplane ticket online. And then he's able to go ahead and do that independently. I'm sorry, I'm having a weird flash. If I set up a trust while my adult son is on Medi-Cal and then he goes off Medi-Cal, does the trust still stay active?
Not a new program.
Whoops. Yes, the trust, once you set up a special needs trust and money is poured in, it is also irrevocable. So it cannot be broken once it's created. If you don't like us as trustee, you can ask us to resign and we can pour the money, it's called decanting, into another pool trust. But you cannot take that money out because once you do that, then it becomes accountable resource for government programs. Next slide, please. So I'll talk a little bit at the end here about CalABLE. This applies to any ABLE account. So this is another way to keep your government benefits, but also set aside money for someone with a disability. So as we talked about before the ABLE Act, you were limited to that $2,000 without impacting SSI. Now you can save up to $17,000 per calendar year. That $17,000 is whatever the annual IRS gift tax exemption is. So in 2023, that amount is now $17,000. It could go up next year to $18,000. It changes every year based on Congress. But you can go all the way up to $100,000 and not impact SSI. So this is the recommended way to create savings accounts, especially you parents of kids who are younger. The smart thing to do is take money out of any savings account you've set up or even 529 and put it in an ABLE account because you'll have a lot more flexibility with money once it's in that ABLE account. Next slide. So Like I said, this is brand new. The disabling condition must have started before the age of 46. It used to be age 26. The beneficiary is always the account owner, and it can be opened by the beneficiary or the authorized legal representative. And then the assets are protected, but they can't shelter income. So the funds are tax exempt as long as they're spent on what's called a qualified disability expense. And on the next slide, we'll go over what can you spend the ABLE money on. So it's a lot. You can spend it on food, education, housing. Remember I talked about that in-kind services and maintenance penalty from SSI in the beginning? So if you use the ABLE account to pay for rent, you don't get that penalty. You can use it for transportation, healthcare. So the ABLE account's a great thing. Now, there's no trustee on the ABLE account. There's no outside oversight. So for some people, that may be a really great thing. It gives them a lot of independence. For some of our clients, that may not be a good thing. Maybe they could be persuaded to take money out of their CalABLE and use it for someone else's benefit, or to give it to somebody else's business, or someone could take advantage of them. If there's any concerns about that, it's probably better to have the majority of money in a third-party special needs trust. But you can also, it's recommended to have money in both a CalABLE and a third-party trust, because there's advantages to both. Maybe I'll pause here. Lisa, you said, is there a Medi-Cal recapture of pooled trust funds after beneficiary passes away? Only with first party, not with third party. There's no Medi-Cal recapture with third party. What happens to pooled trust if the beneficiary dies? Can any remainder be left to a sibling? Yes. Yes. Especially on a third party. On a third-party trust, there's no Medi-Cal payback. Our pool trust has a right to keep some of the remainder. Our board of directors has decided upon a 10% trust remainder, and then the 90% would go to the named heirs. It could be a sibling, it could be a charity, it could be anyone you want to name. Alexander, why don't we let's stop the PowerPoint for a minute, and if you want to open up your camera so we can see you. Lisa, I don't know. Lisa, did I answer all your questions, or you want to unmute? Lisa, are you still there? All right. So to sum it up about the Medi-Cal recapture only happens with first party, not with third party. Renee asked, can you have annuities and settlements paid into an ABLE account? Yes, I believe you can. You'd have to double check. I'm going to put in the, I'm going to type in chat the, oops, it's only one L, CalABLE. That's the URL. To open a CalABLE account, you have to do it online. You cannot walk into a bank and do it. And you can start it with only $25. Lexington, you asked a good question. For people with disabilities, what do we do if we don't have a relative or a trusted person to help us? If we are alone, what do we do? Is there a way to have someone help us with our finances and decision making without losing my ability to make decisions entirely? Well, actually, I think this is a good chance for Mark. Mark, to talk about your experience, because Mark does have a wonderful sister who helps him out, but Mark mostly talks directly to our staff. So, Mark, why don't you share what happens when you need money?
Basically, what I do is I talk to Tina, who works with JLA Trust, And at one point, I was sending, all my bills, the rent for next month, cable, phone, everything to her apartment. Unfortunately, there were problems with people breaking into the mailboxes. So now I'm on Easy Pay, where I have the credit card, the TrueLink, for $300 a month. I'm on Easy Pay on Spectrum and T-Mobile. And then when it comes to DWP and my rental check, I take pictures of those. I send it to her mobile phone, and that way she has a record. She takes care of DWP, and then I get a rental check for next month shortly in the mail a few days later. That way I don't have any problems with the mail, and I pay less overall by being on Easy Pay.
Yeah, I think that was a really good explanation. So you can see we had to create a personalized approach for what Mark needed, right? And, what Mark needed is different than what, some of our other clients need. So Lexington, if you had a trust with us, you'd be working with us and you'd be assigned a staff member. Hi, Sherry. Sherry's one of our amazing, amazing volunteers. We create a personalized spending plan with each client. And then we have very much an ongoing relationship. So it's very different than a bank, so clients will call us up and say, hey, I want to buy a mattress and I don't know where to even start. Like, should I order online? Should I go to a mattress store? And, we can help clients with that. If clients really need a lot of extra help with day-to-day life, we can hire a private case manager that we will pay out of the trust funds, if there's enough trust funds and if it makes sense. If the client is regional center, we try to work with their service coordinators or their ILS, independent living services provider. So we have some clients who are getting assistance through LA County Department of Mental Health, and they have a social worker assigned to them through a contracted agency with LA County. So we'll work with that social worker. So, I mean, the big difference between us and a bank is you're getting the same high level of fiduciary oversight, but you're getting that real social service, individualized, personalized approach. Renee is asking, who prepares accountings for JLA for court supervised trust? We use a paralegal who specializes in that area. For court supervised trust, which is not going to be the majority of your trust in this group, any court fees or any accounting fees have to be paid out of the trust funds. So there needs to be sufficient. Unfortunately, it's an expensive process. There's no cheap way to do it. Lisa, I think I must have blinked and missed vital info. What is the annual percentage or fixed trust? We charge a fixed fee for the trustee fee based on assets. And then, actually, Alexandra, do you mind getting the fee maybe on our website? Can you go to that?
I'm digging it up.
Okay. We'll share it in just a minute. And then TrueLink charges a flat 1% yearly fee that's taken quarterly to be the investment manager. So it comes out to about 1.5 to 1.7% a year, depending on the size of the assets. So it sounds like a lot of money, and I know it is a lot of money, but let me tell you, if you are using a private fiduciary, they're going to charge at least $180 an hour, and then they're going to charge you for all the other professionals that they use for your particular case, whether it's an accountant or a lawyer. We have a lawyer that we use under consultation, so most of the time those fees are not passed on to the client unless there's something extraordinary happening. I'm going to answer another question. In an unfortunate situation and there's no life insurance payout, in an unfortunate situation and there is life insurance payout, does that flow into the special needs trust? It can flow into the special needs trust, but you have to rename your beneficiary on your life insurance plan. Every life insurance has a website, and they have a change of beneficiary form. So once you set up that future funded trust with us, you then have to fill out that form on the life insurance website. Otherwise, that money's not going to flow automatically into the trust. Can we name the pool trust as a successor trustee? Yes, you can, but we recommend that we know about it, because it's going to be hard down the line if it's a surprise. So if you really think you're going to use us, like after both parents pass, we do recommend setting up the future funded trust. Some families will have both parents and then like an aunt or an uncle, and we're like way down the line. I at least would, it would be helpful to have a copy of that trust in our records, so we know that we've been named. I missed how much you charge. All right, Alexandra, I don't know, are you able to share
It's
the?
right there. It's the next comment.
Oh, okay. All right, well, let me share it with everybody. Here we are. All right, so here's our costs and fees. So here's our tiered, here's the tiered amounts. You can see right here, we're pretty straightforward. We try not to nickel and dime. So to answer, we don't do an a la carte menu because we're really trying not to nickel and dime. If you set up a active account with at least $20,000, there's that $1,300 enrollment fee. And if you're setting up the future funded, which is an inactive trust, then there's that $600 enrollment fee plus the minimum deposit of $200. And this is on our website. The one a la carte service that we do offer is if you just want to do some consultation and talk about your individual situation, your government benefits, what you're thinking about, we can set that up at $90 an hour. So that is an a la carte function that's available. We are trying to get vendored by the regional center system to start providing something called coordinated family services, which is going to be vendor code 076. It's in a pilot stage right now. It's not yet available. What has been the average return on the trust funds? So we have 3 different portfolios. The conservative portfolio has a return of 3.4. Conservative growth is 4.3, and moderate growth is 5.1. They're all pretty conservative because we are governed by what's called the prudent investor rule. We're not allowed to, as trustees of special needs trust, we're not allowed to invest in highly speculative investments. There's no Bitcoin, there's no pork bellies. It's like S&P 500 in an ETF. You know, mid cap, large cap. There's nothing really exciting in there, guys. And then the bond side has a combination of government bonds and corporate bonds. So nothing really exciting. It's designed to be like a retirement pension fund. So kind of boring, but steady returns. Do we manage pool trust for those with mental health or only developmental physical? No, we have the whole range. For people on an LPS, mental health conservatorship, we do need to really take a close look and make sure we're the right match for people on an LPS conservatorship. You do not need to be Jewish to enroll. We were started in the Jewish community with a lot of Jewish charitable funds, but we are open and welcome all faiths, all backgrounds, all genders, all sexual orientations. You have to live in the state of California. That's the only catch. You got to live in the state of California. Have you encountered situations where trust funds are depleted entirely? Yeah, I mean, some of our clients, especially we have some older clients that came in with only $30,000 or $40,000. So the money got spent down, and then unfortunately, we don't have much options but to refer them back to government and other nonprofits. We really hope that most parents and grandparents, at the very least, with like a life insurance policy, can at least get to like 200,000. It's really better to start off with a larger amount. Any other questions? Anybody want to raise their hand?
No, it's very hard to get eds, and I have plenty.
It's very hard to get what?
That was just Sherry.
Okay. Maybe she'll come back. Yes, this is being taped. Any other questions? Lots of. All right. I'm happy to answer any questions or hear any comments you might have. Let me just say this, please, if you're thinking about doing this, please don't put it off. You know, there's all kinds of things that unfortunately can lead to a parent or a grandparent getting disabled or, God forbid, you know, passing away themselves. We've had more than one instance where parents said they wanted to plan ahead and they didn't, and then we ended up having it took more time to get the money out of the estate. Sometimes they had to go through probate. We really encourage everybody to create an estate plan. Go talk to a trust and estate attorney. If you own property, it's highly recommended to have something called a living trust. And it's really important to plan ahead. I like to say hope is not a plan. You must, if you have an adult child, especially an adult child over the age of 18 with disabilities, you must plan ahead. Sherry, you were going to say something.
So I just wanted to say that I make intake calls. I do intake calls for JLA for Michelle. I'm a volunteer and I come from a long career at City of Hope in fundraising. And one thing that I found in my experience is that many times I'm talking to families, generally women in their mid to 80s, and they say, gee, I really wish I'd taken care of this. They have their own health issues. Selling property is time consuming and emotional. And they really, really wish that they had taken care of this early in their lives. So if you're in your 50s or 60s or 70s and this is an issue, please don't wait. I'm a parent myself. I was fortunate to go on a special trip this year, and I spent a lot of time making sure that our estate plan was in place before we went anywhere, because we have one son and not a lot of family, and it's really important. So please, a new year, make your resolution, but don't wait till the end of the year to take care of it.
Well said, Sherry. Nancy, you wanted to comment?
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mark, Mark, I think Mark wanted to add something.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I've been with JLA Trust for about 3.5 years, and Tina is like my point person as far as bills. She's done an excellent job. They care about people who are involved in the trust here, which makes a difference. It's not all dollars and cents. Michelle is indispensable when I reapply for Medi-Cal every year, because I need her help in order to do so when you're involved with the trust. All I can say is, for me, I'm thankful I'm here. And I don't work here. I've been a client here for 3.5 years, and I've been extremely happy with the job they've done financially as well as personally. So all I can say is, it's a good move to be here. I couldn't be happier. I don't want to go anywhere else. And I feel my future is as good as it can be being here as opposed to anywhere else, simply because they care as much as they care about making money as about the people themselves.
Oh, I didn't know what Mark was going to say.
That's it.
But
That's
that
why
was-
I'm here. I mean, these
But that was
people,
beautiful.
you should feel fortunate to be called or be on this call because of what they do and what they can accomplish for you, and they can get the most out of your money. For as wacky as the stock market is, they do an outstanding job in that area. But what's even most important, I'll say it again, the personal aspect is
Yeah.
what makes a difference. They care. I'm here because I'm disabled. I'm not Jewish. I'm here because I'm disabled from a car accident, and coming here was the best move I could have made for my money financially. And I'd do it again in a heartbeat. And I'd recommend to anyone else as well. That's why I came here. I'm not getting paid. I'm here to help them.
Thanks, Mark. Anybody else want to ask a question or make a comment?
Oh, by the way, hi, Brady.
All right, Alexandra, anything we want to close up with?
I don't think so.
Okay, so if you want to make an appointment, a phone call, if you're interested and you want to make a phone call, set up a phone call or a Zoom, here's my email, mwolf@jlatrust.org, and I think that'll be that. And I'm going to turn off the recording now.